Hello, my girlfriend. How are you? Today I have a special guest to share with you. One of my clients, Yoonhee Kim, who's a professional golfer who's doing the mini tour circuit and trying to get a tour card, came on one of our academy calls that I have and talked to the members and took questions. And what I wanted to do today was I wanted to share that discussion with you as she talks about pressure and fear and what it's like to go through tour school and diving a little bit deeper into the work that we've had done and the progress that she has made. And she was really gracious to come on and share that with all my members. And I want to share that with you. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Yoonhee Kim. So what I wanted to do today, and I shared a little bit with Yoonhee about that, we've been talking about pressure, but I think she gives this month in competition, but she gives a nice, different, fresh angle for someone who's been playing golf at a different level. She's a tour player, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. And then what we're going to do is just have a conversation about, I'm just going to ask her some questions. We're just going to have some conversations about what it's like to be a tour player. I was a tour player, but it's also nice to hear from somebody who's actively a tour player. Things are a little bit different now. Yoonhee, you know that I can go in any different direction. So if you say some things and I feel inspired to coach you through it, you won't be offended, right? So Yoonhee, why don't we start? Why don't you share with everybody a little bit about you and what you're doing, where you live, what you're playing in? Just give a little bit experience about your background.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, my name's Yoonhee Kim. From San Ramon, California, the Bay Area. I'm 25, so I've been playing professionally for like 2 to 3 years. It was a little weird there for a second with the COVID because I graduated from the University of California, Davis during COVID 2020. So it's kind of like 2.5, 3 years, I say. Currently, I'm playing on the Women's All Pro Tour, which is about to end. And next year will be the Annika Women's All Pro Tour, which is very exciting because Annika Sorenstam and her foundation has partnered now with the WAPT.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
I didn't tell you that.
I didn't know that. So it's going to be it's going to have a new name.
There's be the Annika Women's All Pro. It'll be long, but
Yeah. Oh, I got you. Yeah. So now what's the acronym for that?
the AW.
AWAT?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is good. That might be more than consistent funding or maybe better funding for the tour.
I think it'll be really, really good. From what I've heard and from what Annika had sent in a little video at our tour championship and basically just said that she really likes what the WAPT is doing and wants to help grow the game. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, that's good to know. Okay. And sorry, I interrupted you. You just went through tour school. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Right.
Yes. I went through Q school and I've had a little bit of time off in the last couple of weeks, which has been really, really fun.
Yeah. Nice to have some time off. So we talked a little bit just about prepping for this conversation. And one of the things that you realized was the contrast of once your season ends and you stop competing. You guys might experience this too if you go through your golf seasons. It's all just a little microcosm, your world relative to her. Is I want you all to see the similarities in what her brain is doing, how she's thinking about things, and what she's feeling on the golf course, even though she's playing it, she's one of the best women golfers in the world, really. But one of the things that we talked about was you don't realize how much your stress and the pressure has been just constantly building all year because your year builds and ends really with Q school. That's really the ultimate thing. And then when that is over and done, you feel that relief when all that stress goes away. I remember packing my bag in January and unpacking it in October after Q school. That's what I felt like. It's like I'd never really emptied my suitcase out because I traveled overseas a lot too. And I remember that moment in October, I was like, oh my gosh, I just need a break and just like this weight off of me. What have you felt as the contrast of that?
Yeah, I think as soon as Q school is over for me, I like immediately felt like I could breathe maybe a little bit just because it was just it I love playing and I love playing professionally. I love traveling. I love everything about it, but I think it was the first time I felt like okay, like I don't have anything coming at me and I can just like sit for a second and relax. Because the summer's jam packed. I mean, I'm barely home at my house. So I think just going home and just taking a second to breathe and realize like, okay, like you can relax for a second. Because I think every other time when I'm playing, it's like even when I do come home for a week, I'm working the whole time because I'm trying to like I just want to stay sharp. So this was
Yeah.
like really nice to just like take a breather, and it's not like I didn't practice. Of course I still practice and I enjoy practicing. I love practicing, but it was a little maybe not as intense and like not as like I
Yeah.
got to get this done because if I don't get it done, like I won't feel great. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Yes. To me, it does for sure. Right. So, okay. So tell me what you and I have worked together for a little while, but how did you know, or what made you think that this was an area of your game that you wanted to work on?
Well, I think I've always known like mentally I've had a little bit of ups and downs. I mean, I'm like sometimes I would stand over before talking to Kathy, I would kind of stand over like a tee shot or a putt and be like, I have no idea if this is gonna go in or if I'm gonna hit it in the fair. Like I don't know where it's gonna go. Like especially with tee shots or putts, I was like, I don't know where this is going. And instead of like figuring out how to like I didn't really have the tools to figure out how to get out of my way necessarily. And I'd hit a lot of shots like we in college they used to call it like anyway shots where like I would just kind of have doubts but I just hit it anyway and it didn't really and it would not go very well because it's like I'm not calm certain or confident going into a shot. So I knew mentally I was really struggling there and sometimes I would have these moments of like my heart wouldn't stop pounding and I didn't know how to deal with things like that, or I'd feel pressure and kind of try to shove it down because I didn't think I realized at the time that like shoving it down or like not acknowledging it wasn't really helping me. It was becoming more like if I acknowledge it, it won't help me. But it's actually the opposite. Like once I've started acknowledging those things, like saying things out loud, it's helped me so much more.
Yeah.
But I think I knew like I had a lot of I was struggling mentally, I think, since college, and I just didn't really know how to like transition out of that. And this is like
Yeah.
them.
You feel like a little bit more like you're at the effect of your brain versus like having control of it, right? You might watch what it's doing, but you're like, going, I don't know how the heck to get out of this and do something different. But you also probably had that feeling of knowing that you're getting in your own way. Like you had more talent. That's the simplest way of knowing that it's time to work on your mental game. You had more talent than you were taking out to the golf course, I imagine, right? You like, I know how to hit these shots. I know how to score, but I'm getting in my own way. I would imagine that's what you felt, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, right. What do you think was the biggest mental challenge for you? Or maybe let's say emotion. What was the biggest emotion that you experienced on the golf course
Uh,
that didn't work for you?
Year didn't really work for me at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like in the year I've worked with you, it's changed. Like I think when I started with you in I think it was like February, March, it was very much so like fear, embarrassment. I didn't want to embarrass myself. I was so worried about what everyone else was thinking. And then like I started out my season really well this year in the top 5 on my tour, get to go straight to stage 2 of qualifying school, which is huge because it basically guarantees you'll go to the next tour.
Right.
I think because I was playing well, it turned into like a lot of pressure I was putting on myself. Like if I don't do this, like I think it was almost like if I don't do this, my life's over because I'm gonna have to go to stage 1 and like putting negative thoughts in my head. So it kind of changed. I think it started with like I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to be scared. I'm so scared hitting the ball sometimes to like a lot of pressure, and I don't think either of those emotions help me very much.
Right. Not at all. But it's so funny. I think a lot of people here can relate. And I know that some people have said this before, that they think that once they get to a certain level, that they're never going to have fear and they're never going to worry about what other people think and they're never going to embarrass themselves. I think that might be for somebody who's a higher handicap, but it's really is all relative, right? It's like this is what our brains do. But here's Yoonhee, one of the best female golfers in the world, and she's worried. She has fear just like you all do, and she's worried about what other people think because this is what our human brains do, and we do want to witness it, and we want to be really curious about what's going on, and then we got to learn how to pivot away from that. And we've talked a lot about pivoting out of that. So what have been some of the tools that you've used or had to use on the golf course? What do you think's been the most useful thing for you to use on the golf course to get out of some of those emotions that are going to get in your way?
I think just saying things out loud, like one of the things Kathy told me to say was, I'm safe. And it kind of sounds ridiculous. When I say it out loud, I realize like the big picture, I think. Because like I think when I say like I'm safe, it's like, of course I'm safe. I'm on a golf course playing golf. Like, of course I'm safe. Like I'm not gonna die kind of thing. And then it kind of puts things into perspective. It makes me laugh maybe a little at myself too.
Yeah.
Q school, I was going like this the whole time. Like
Yeah.
breathing, just breathing. And then I think something else that really helped was I started like creating goals of like, if I'm not certain, I'm not going to hit the shot, and like holding myself accountable to that, and like kind of counting on my hand, like how many times did I do it? How many times was I certain? How many times was I not certain? And I think those things really help. And I'm not going to be completely certain over every shot. I don't think that's like completely realistic, but like at least like to a level of certainty where I'm not going to regret it. Cause I think I almost like my mom caddies for me, and I almost relied on her sometimes to make a decision, and I just hit it. And even if I didn't agree with it, and it would cause this like anger cycle. Cause I'd be like, well, I didn't want to hit that, but it's on me for hitting it kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was about you coming up and starting to make more decisions for yourself too, right? Versus mom. And mom's great as a caddy and everything, but then when you still have that underlying doubt in there, right? You've got to make sure that you're having your own back and being certain. And I love the part that you said that you can't be certain over every shot, but we can find things about the shot to be certain about. Like we can be certain about that we like the club, or this is the club, or we're just going to decide this is the club. We can be certain about how we prepared. We can be certain about how we're feeling. We can be certain that we're going to have our own back. We can be certain about our target and the yardage. And like, there's always things to find to create certainty, because the opposite of certainty is doubt. And doubt, hitting a golf shot, which is what you just said, was the contrast of that with mom, is not a good place to swing. That's where we steer it and we guide it and do all the things down there. And I love what you said, and I hope you guys all hear that, is that she said that she tries to keep herself like accountable, like keeping track of that. And I encourage everybody in the group to, and actually I put it on my podcast too, is to just keep track of all the shots that you hit from calm, certain, or confidence from a place that you prefer. And then just get really curious on what's happening on the ones that you're not. Right. And that's basically what you started doing, that because that's such a great awareness tool of just paying attention to what's going on, where what you described in the beginning was like, you're at the effect of your brain. Your brain kind of, like I described it as a puppy on the leash, right? Just went wherever the heck it wanted. And you're like, why is it going over there? And now you're bringing it back in and giving it some constraint, right? Which is setting an intention before you go play, right? Which we've talked about, setting intentions. Yeah.
And it's like the more I've worked with Kathy too, it's like the more you observe and you see it in other players too that you're playing with. And I think that's been a lot of learning lessons for me too, because sometimes I'll be having a really good day, but I can see the pressure or girls not being confident or certain all of a sudden just towards the end of their rounds. And I think it could be maybe they're checking like what the cut line is, or just putting a lot of pressure on themselves in that way when they've been playing well the whole time, and then just kind of losing it at the end. And I think that's happened to everyone. That's happened to me. It's happened to everyone. But observing it has been a really good way for me to learn too, I think.
Right. Because it gives you incentive to just make sure that you're being more cognizant of what you're doing and that it's not useful, right? If we can see the opposite, like if I do this thing, I get this result. And then you can watch other people that you play with, and you guys could do this when you play with people at your courses, is you can watch people who are super negative, and you're like, they're eventually that's going to not work, right? Eventually they're going to implode at some point. Or you can watch people implode on the golf course and then kind of go, all right, do I do that? How often do I do that? How can I not do that? What am I thinking to do that? Because it doesn't work, and it's not useful. So tell me about, how do you deal with, or how did you start dealing with worrying about what other people think? Because I know we've talked about this.
I think it was distinctly one round. I don't know, is that okay for me to talk about? Like,
sure, whatever you want to talk about.
One round, I was playing with a girl who's on the LPGA, who's consistently been on the LPGA, and another girl who's kind of like the same level as me. And I just remember for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of this LPGA player. I want to like show her like I'm just as good as her kind of thing. And I kind of let it get in my head that I was playing with this really good golfer. And I could see after the fact, like, well, while I was so worried about what this person was thinking of me, which really she didn't even care, the other girl in my group who's the same level was thinking more like, I'm going to show her how good I am. And like she was playing so good and I was not playing that great. And at the end of the day, the LPGA player didn't even care because she's just focused on herself. And I think after that, I remember talking to Kathy and realizing like, I can't let like this get in my way because I'm just as good as her on a good day, you know? And so I think after that, it just kind of was like, yeah, it's okay for me to get nervous. And if I play with someone that's really good, it's okay for me to like say out loud, like, oh, I'm really nervous because I admire her.
Yeah.
Or I want to, I admire everything she's done in her career. And just saying those things out loud puts things like, put like almost calm me down. So anytime I started to feel uncomfortable after that, I'd be like, wow, like I really admire this person. And that doesn't put me down. It doesn't mean like I'm bad because I'm not at the same level right now. But I think that just started to help me a lot.
Yeah. And you realizing too at that moment that you belong,
Hmm.
right? That you're good enough and that you belong. And like a lot of times because we compare ourselves so much, or we don't think that we're as good as other people, there's like this little voice in our head that we're not good enough and that we don't belong and everybody's better than us kind of mentality, especially when you're playing with somebody like that. But the thing that too, which this made me remember, is that if you can remember to share this, because I do know the story because I think it's amazing, is that you started out at some point during the season about having beliefs. So we talk about shifting beliefs and identity about you and your ability to perform or score or lower your handicap or make cuts. Do you remember our conversation on that? And when you first started out, you had certain beliefs about making the cut or maybe making money and then where you'd finish and then how that evolved in your brain. So can you share a little bit about that? Do you remember?
Yeah. So it started out, I remember like it started out with like, I just need to make the cut, like feeling a lot of stress of like making the cut. And then the season kept going and I was like consistently making cuts and it kind of changed to like, wait, like I want to win. Like I don't want to just make the cut. I want to win. And then it kind of was like evolving to like, I want to win. So then kind of putting a different kind of pressure instead of being like, I need to make the cut. It was like, I need to win. So my final rounds were kind of like not as great as they could be, I think.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
talking.
Right. Your circuit, like you all of a sudden you started out with like, I'm not sure if I can make the cut. I'm not sure if I'm a player who can make the cut. I'm not sure if I'm good enough to make the cut. That feels uncomfortable to me. And all of a sudden you start making cuts, right? We shifted a little bit of belief in there, like I'm a player who can make cuts. And then you start making cuts and now you're like going, well, wait a minute. Okay, that's not a problem anymore. Now I want to win. Like I need to change what I believe about myself. But
Mhm.
it could have been one of those things where we jumped too fast. I think we moved it back down to something that your brain was a little bit more comfortable with. Like I think it's totally possible I can finish in the top 20 or top 10 or something consistently. So there wasn't that extra level of pressure or expectation because, you know, what tournament doesn't anybody want to win? But it's about shifting your ability or your belief in yourself to be able to finish at a certain place starts with your thought first.
Mm.
Right? It starts with you believing it, and then the results come after that. And I loved how, and I tell the story about how you really shifted your belief and going from I'm not sure if I can make cuts to wait a minute. Now I can make cuts. That's not a problem to like I want to finish at a certain level. Now I want to win. And it's just that change and that shift in your identity without, this is what I'm also going to say, without your talent changing. You had the talent the whole time.
Mhm.
What do you think about that now? So now what's your belief? So you take that and you go into tour school and so tour school, Q school, it's basically a series of tournaments. Now it's crazy. When I did it was 2 stages. Now I can't even keep track of it. And I think it's over the top, but there's a series of tournaments and rounds that you have to qualify and go through. It's complicated now, but let's just say you had to get on the LPGA and play on there. This is one of the stages that you have to go through. But tell people what the experience is like about going as relative to pressure about going out to Q school. Where does your mind go when you have that pressure of Q school out there?
And like realistically, this year I was like a lot. I could almost like see it happening.
Yeah.
It was close, like last year maybe wasn't as close, but I could actually like envision it happening. Yeah, but I believed it could have happened. But I think like the way my mind has approached qualifying school each year has definitely evolved. I think my first year trying, I was like, I went into it going like this year, this is going to determine my life. This tournament's going to determine my life. Like my life's over if I don't play well. And realistically, it was not like that at all. So think like that was my first year. Last year was kind of like, wow, like a lot of things just didn't go my way and like hit shots I've never hit before and missed by a couple, but it's okay. And then this year, I think it was a different kind of pressure of like, well, I've been playing really, really well. I should obviously play well at Q school or this week and this week of qualifying school. And I did not play well. And like, there are a lot of things that happened that I don't need to get into, but I also was like, I need to be at peace with whatever decision, whatever happens, because it's 1 week of my life and it could just be my off week of the year, which it happened to be.
Yeah.
So
There was a great Instagram quote where a tour player said, you have to work in between tournaments like your life depends on it, and then you have to play like you don't care. So it's like that transition when her brain is sitting there telling her like, my life depends on this, my future depends on this tournament. That's like ultimately shaking your hamster cage, and all the thoughts are going to come up because we put our brain into this fight or flight place where we think that our life is threatened, which basically she said out loud, right, about her golf game. So your poor golf game, even if it wasn't an off week, was really going to struggle to show up underneath all of that pressure and all of that fear, really, of your safety, going back to that safety part. And you are not alone in this little journey with Q school, right? It's one of the biggest mental challenges for golf pros to get through those stages, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I know a lot of girls that like should's a bad word, but like they really should be going, like their progress over a year shows that they are good enough to go to the next level. But it's like they just can't get out of stage one. And it's hard. I mean, they take 95 girls out of 328 people. And I mean, if you're just not having a good week that week, like that's just what it is. And I think it's also just accepting it. Like Kathy and I have talked about this, is like me accepting it. I'm the most at peace I've been in my life, I think, playing golf. I'm enjoying it. I love it. And like, just being at peace with like, that's just what the cards I was dealt with. And that's just what happened. And it doesn't doesn't take anything away from the year I've had. Like, I think that's where I've had to almost have my own back, is like, doesn't take anything away from like what I've done this year, or like how much my game has improved in the last 3 years. So just like having my own back in that way too.
Yeah. It's huge, right? When you know you're going to have your own back, and I've talked to everybody about this before, when you know you're going to have your own back at the end of 18, it takes so much pressure off your round. But if you think at the end of 18 that you're going to treat yourself crappy, or you're going to beat yourself or give yourself a verbal beating, or you're going to do it throughout the round, then you freak your brain out. And it's so much more challenging for you to take your best swings out there. So having your own back is really just not only a golf lesson, but it's a life lesson in anywhere that you go, so that it should be something that we do off the golf course too, so that it's easy when we're on the golf course. It's not like, oh yeah, on the golf course, I have my own back, but I'm going to go home and beat the crap out of myself. No, it's, you want to take care of you everywhere you go. And that's why I always say that golf has a tendency to reveal the way that we manage our minds, the way that we treat ourselves, the thoughts and beliefs that we have, how well we manage our emotions and deal with our emotions. It just all shows up on the golf course because of the nature of the game. What do you think people underestimate as an amateur about what it takes to play at a top level?
Well, I think you have to work really hard, and and I think you have to work really hard on all aspects of your game. But I think you also have to like be able to stare yourself and then look at yourself in the mirror and be like, am I really working on what I need to work on? Because it could be mental, it could be short game, could be ball striking, but like of course everyone has a lot of fun. I love playing. Like if I could just go play, I'd go play, but that's not necessarily what I need to work on in my game. Like does that make sense? So I
Oh
think
my gosh, that's awesome advice. That was awesome. Yes, exactly. I think this is anywhere too, right? But being really brutally honest with ourselves, because we focus on things that maybe sting the most, or we might miss the mark and not want to work on a certain part of our game, or we avoid working on, the mental part when it is just glaring us in the face on how we're feeling and how we're treating ourselves, and we just avoid it. So yeah, I think that's awesome advice. I do think people underestimate, how much work it takes to get to a top level on a consistent basis. And I know a lot of people on the call are not trying to play at tour player level. That doesn't matter. But even you just taking your handicap down a couple shots is like the amount of work it takes just to take it down a couple shots. I think a lot of people underestimate, and how much the mental game plays a role in that. Like you being able to manage your brain even around those few couple shots. I think a lot of people underestimate that part too. Okay, so if you were going to take, like, going into next year and next season, what is going to take Yoonhee to the next level?
I think just like believing in myself, believing in my ability, continuing to work on the things I need to work on, and like not being afraid to fail. Because like I think that's something I've always struggled with, is like, well, what if I try so hard and I put everything I have into this and I fail? But like realizing like that's just me failing anyway. So I
Mhm.
think like last winter I was like, okay, I want to give it up my all. And like if I fail, I fail. And it just showed me like, wow, like when I put everything I can into this and like sacrifice the fun, like it's like like I'm 25 years old, I sometimes want to just go and have fun or go on a trip or do something fun like that, but it's also like sacrificing like what do I want, what's my dream, and like what do
Yeah.
I want to do. So I think I've done that, and like seen the results, so just like continuing to do that, and like not realizing like me trying is like not failing, me working my butt off is not failing. Like if anything, I can look back in like 20 years and be like, I'm so proud of myself. And finding pride in that. I think it's like sometimes it's hard for me to be like, I'm good, or like I'm so proud of myself and like how I've grown. Like saying things like that kind of make me like like feel weird, but being okay with like saying
Yeah.
things.
Yes, I love that. Wow. What a nice, beautiful contrast to our first call, Uni. I'm just going to say. Yeah, you've done awesome. I do not doubt that you're going to have an amazing 24, because it's about the evolving. Like, I love to use that word now for some reason. It's like we're evolving. We evolve on and off the golf course, but with our games, we're evolving. And you can see the evolution of you moving forward with your golf game and managing your mind and having your own back. And it's easy to look back and go, wow, I've come a long way. And then being really proud of the progress that you've made, and you have. And I know you'll continue to do that.
Okay, thank you, Eunice, so much for coming on the podcast and talking to our members of the Academy and taking questions. And if anybody wants to learn more about how you can work with me or work more on your mental game, make sure you head to kathyhartwood.com. Right? Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.